Welcome to the session 11 of Patanjali Meditation 101. We are in the 11th session of the current course, and as is our practice, we will begin with a short meditation practice, about 10 to 12 minutes. We are familiar with the 5 steps of Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, starting with the disciplining our body, then deep breathing, then we instruct to our mind with the code word Om. We convey our intention that we wish to disconnect from our mind and be alone in my cave. Soon after the instruction, we focus our mind between the two eyebrows and ensuring that our mind is stationed there, that is its place, to be settled there. Then we walk into the cave alone. Just sit for the meditation. Taking the posture. Let us devote ensuring that body is elastic, void of any stiffness. We do a few cycles of deep breathing, abdominal diaphragmatic breathing. Deep breathe out. Hold the breath out. Breathe in. Hold it within. Breathe out. Hold it out. Breathe in. Hold it within. Breathe out. Hold it out. Breathe in. Hold it within. Breathe out. Hold the breath out. Breathe in. Hold it within. One more last cycle. Breathe out. Hold it out. Breathe in. Hold it within. We take a brief pause for our breathing to become normal. Let's recite that code word of instruction for our mind 5 times together. Om. 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 and gradually open our eyes. Last week we have covered an interesting topic that human body can be visualized as an internal combustion engine, wherein I tried to emphasize that particularly very important if we are doing daily practice of meditation in the morning and we would very much like our bladder and bowels to be empty. And if we have a problem with constipation, etc., then that doesn't allow us to gain the benefit of meditation as much as we should derive. I tried to emphasize that we must come to the rhythm, natural rhythm, following the four strokes of an automobile engine, the exhaust stroke, then intake stroke, then compression and power stroke. So first we should empty the body system from all its waste products, and then only we should take our breakfast. If we don't do that, body is confused because to get rid of waste also requires certain energy. Before, without doing that part, if I am eating my breakfast, then the body doesn't know whether it should put in its energy in welcoming the new food or getting rid of the previous waste. It has two tasks. It cannot balance its work together and it doesn't allow us to come back to the rhythm. So that is why it is very important not to take breakfast until the bowels motion. Of course, for some days there will be slight difficulty, but then the body will come in the natural rhythm. And those who suffer with this problem, I can share my experience that spinach is very good. If you consume every day good quantity of spinach, you will probably help get rid of constipation problem. And when the whole system is in rhythm, then I try to point out that if there is a gap when your whole system is very light and you have postponed, you delay your breakfast slightly, that is a certain time period. I called it a super stroke, and that is what is the superiority of the human system as opposed to an internal combustion engine, that you can get a time period when you are feeling very light, which is very good and conducive for creative and intellectual activity in the morning hours. Today we will move on to a concept that this meditation, Patanjali meditation, that we look at as some time duration when my mind is thoroughly inactive. As I have tried to say again and again, it's a step beyond mindfulness meditation. So when this is what Patanjali's definition is, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. All that is transpiring on my mind screen, that should be subdued. All kinds of modifications, perturbations on mind. That is genuinely chitta vritti nirodha. Nothing is happening in my mind. No thoughts, absolutely nothing, as if the mind screen is in its raw blank state. And then I am able to gain innermost energy. I call it as food for the soul. And then there is something I want to discuss, different prototypes between our last two steps, step number 4 and 5. Step 4 is concentration, when mind is focused on one point, where we insist that mind is between the two eyebrows. And step number 5 is absolutely inactive blank mind. In between, there is a wide spectrum, and that is what is very challenging. So, we will look at what are the possible prototypes that may help us this journey from step number 4 and 5. We have partly discussed it in an earlier session in response to one gentleman's comment, but we will look at it again this time. Let's look at it. Why Patanjali meditation can be treated as food for the soul. We know we are a composite of body, mind, and soul. And for our two instruments, two domains of body and mind, we are quite familiar how we supply them their food for the body and food for the mind, that brings in physical energy and intellectual energy. So food for the body, we are very much accustomed to it. I sit on a chair, on a table, dining table, and my food is in front of me. My body is focused on food, and of course I use my mouth and hands and some sort of cutlery and put the food in my body through the mouth. My body is connected to the food. But when it comes to the food for the mind, like at this point, those sitting in front of me or connected to me via webinar, you are trying to absorb mind is focused on me, my words. So mind is focused on the speaker or on a book if you are reading a book, whatever it is. But very interesting thing is your outer domain of body, if you analyze the situation, your body is very much at rest. I mean inactive. Walking or running and still listening to me. That is not feasible. That will not be efficient. This is what is to be important. When you go to the domain of mind, the relative outer domain is body, and the particular domain of mind is connected to the source of knowledge. And the outer domain is thoroughly inactive. Now we extrapolate this situation and imagine if there was something in the natural world, universe, which could provide food for my soul, which is my innermost domain. So food for the soul is need to be focused on something that could be treated as the source of innermost energy. We don't know exactly what it is, but let us at least bring it to that system. Like food doesn't walk into my mouth, I at least go to the dining table. Similarly, I want to bring my soul, my innermost domain, to a situation that it can receive the energy if it is available. I may not be knowing exactly, but for that to happen, the necessary condition is that the corresponding outer two domains of body and mind both must be thoroughly inactive. Just like we have seen in the previous situation, food for the mind, I must have my body domain absolutely inactive, then only my mind will be focused and connected to the source of knowledge. Now, when it comes to the food for the soul, I must bring my two domains, the outer two domains of body and mind, absolutely inactive. Then only my soul will be connected to some source of energy. That is what is most subtle, innermost energy. So that is why Patanjali insists on this very important thing, that mind must be thoroughly inactive. If mind is not inactive, just like if your body was not inactive, if you were walking or running, you would not absorb the knowledge from a speaker or from the book. So similarly, I will not gain that innermost energy to my innermost consciousness if my full body and mind are not brought to absolute inactive state. That is what you must be noticing. Now we are in the 11th session, and many of you, I am sure, are able to come to a state your mind is blank, not just for a flick moment, but for slight time duration, couple of minutes, maybe even 4 or 5 minutes, or maybe even half a minute, whatever it is. You have a feeling that in those moments you are gaining something. That is that innermost energy you are drawing from an infinite reservoir. And gradually that will change your entire system. That is what I like to say in the next slide. Patanjali meditation is like watering the root of a plant. That is our innermost domain. And to that, if we are supplying the innermost energy, that will show up in all our outer domains of mind as well as the body. In the very early part of the course, I couldn't have convinced you probably that with Patanjali meditation, even your physical health will improve, even your mental composition, everything will change drastically. That is what I can say now. It is like watering the root of a plant. When you give water and fertilizer to the root of a plant, it goes up into all the branches and into the leaves everywhere. So that is what is happening in Patanjali meditation. That innermost energy which is absorbed in my innermost consciousness, that shows up in all my domains, and that is the most holistic approach. Results are there everywhere. So in last 10 weeks of your practice, you must have seen what remarkable, and we are discussing every session towards its end, what are the benefits we could obtain from it. All that is happening because of this. We are supplying food for the soul, just like food for the mind has a lot of benefit. If I am more knowledgeable, I can maintain good health also. If there is more strength in the mind, that will help my body as well. If there is more strength in my soul, in my innermost domain, that will have remarkable effects on my mind as well as on my body. As I said, this is our usual 5-step of prescription for Patanjali meditation. Steps 1, 2, and 3, Patanjali calls it as Bahiranga Yoga, outer yoga. Then steps 4 and 5, which is Dharana and Dhyan, including the last step, which we are not discussing in Patanjali Meditation 101 called Samadhi. So if there was to be listed here, that would be number 6. 4, 5, 6, Patanjali calls as Antayang Yoga, inner yoga. That is what is truly the inward journey. And here only, between the 4 and 5, a newcomer practitioner goes through some challenges. So we have started here with a particular simple prototype that soon after our instruction to mind is over, step number 3, we say we want to focus our mind between the two eyebrows. And that is helpful. As soon as we focus there, our mind gets settled there. That I will say is like one pointedness. And then we want to get lost. So we have cooked up a prototype where I suggest let's continue to watch in our forehead with our eyes closed. There is a sky like thing, there is nothing, absolutely it's blank. Whatever is its color. And then I say, imagine you are walking deep into the sky. Of course, if something is going into the sky, say a bird is flying or whatever it is, if you are focused there, it will vanish and get lost into that infinite homogeneous sky. So our objective is, with the help of this prototype, observing myself walking into the sky or observing a bird flying into the sky, I go from one thing to nothing. That nothingness in my mind is the meditation. What Patanjali has said, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. There is nothing in the mind screen. So 4 to 5, we have to train our mind, tune our mind, and get used to this exercise of going one pointed to nothingness. That is where, depending on if you are comfortable with the present prototypes, which was more in the likeness of walking into the cave or walk into the sky, or what I have described, watching a bird flying into the sky. These are the prototypes we have discussed. There are a couple of more, like I say, watching. Imagine you are sitting leisurely on an ocean beach and you see waves are coming across and then they vanish. So mind is also like an ocean. Waves are also made of water. They are very much a part of the ocean. They rise and then they fall and then decay and vanish. Imagine as if you are in the ocean beach and this is a monotonous event. One wave coming, vanishing, then another wave. And very comparable prototype will be, that is what many meditation teachers do. You observe your breathing. The air moves into it, the system through the nostrils. You follow it, it goes down the chest, then to the abdomen. It is retained there for a while, and then it is thrown out, it moves upward, and it is thrown out. You just keep following an imaginary molecule of air as it goes through this process. But I somehow personally hesitate because you notice this is a dynamic system. It is not a thing, it is a thing which is going to be there one after another. So it is difficult to retract outside. You want to get out of it. In mindfulness meditation, this is the end of it. If you are just watching your breathing, or say watching, just observing the waves in an ocean beach, and no other thoughts come, this is a reasonable mindfulness meditation. But it will not be what Patanjali meditation can give you different sort of new benefits because of food for the thought. soul, because the mind must be brought absolutely inactive. So if you are observing on something, a dynamic process, say a pendulum is swinging this way and that way, and you imagine that in your mind, you are following that, there is something on your mind skin. It is some one process. It is not blank mind. It is good. It is better than mind going wild into the worldly thoughts, but still it is not, it is blocking you. So that is why I don't go through, don't like to suggest such prototypes which are dynamic in nature, which are unending, and which don't help quite a student to withdraw to nothingness. So my prototypes are first, second, and third, where the continuous observation is likely to vanish, and that will help you go into nothingness. There are some other prototypes like a natural scenic beauty, something you might have seen in your life somewhere, a blue sky, whatever it is, or a valley of flowers, something like that. Then you can superimpose that on your mind skin and observe it. That is at least a still picture, that is not a dynamic picture. There are pros and cons associated with each prototype, but I must say, prototype is a prototype. Our final objective is to borrow a prototype and get rid of the prototype. How to get rid of the prototype is a challenge slightly, but for a beginner, where you need a help of a prototype, you have to, you know, borrow something. We are talking, of course, step 4 to step 5, which is from one pointed focus to nothing. This is another prototype, climbing up a hill. Just imagine the whole learning process of Patanjali meditation is a climb up a hill, which goes through different plateaux. So there are many stations in between, and finally our objective is to be at the summit of the hill. Of course, at a philosophical level, if you study Sankhya by Kapil, he gives this not quite in detail, but in Sutra, they just give a small remark on that. He is trying to describe, his concept is Vivekyati, not bringing new Sanskrit terms, but what it means is final discriminatory knowledge, that you are able to know who you are and what your chit is. So, chit is our instrument. So, as if your whole chitta-vritti nirodha has been achieved, so there is absolutely blank mind. So, you can see the chit as such. Not that your instrument is showing you all kinds of things. Now you see the instrument in its raw state. Like when you walk into a cinema hall before time, you see the screen in raw blank state. So that is, imagine somewhere deep inside my head, there is a tiny cinema hall, and if I have achieved yoga practice, my mind skin is blank, then what is next? Then Kapil, who is predecessor of Patanjali, he says, you will have direct experiential knowledge that this is what you, the observer, are, and in front of you is that blank screen. That is viewed as the objective of the human life, that you should get to know your true self, who you are. So then he says, not going much into the philosophy of Sankhya, but just trying to explain in what context he is describing this climbing up a hill. Then he tells his student, once you have achieved that state, what will happen? He describes, it happens as if you are at the summit of a hill, and you see that other members of the humanity are down the hill. So his word is krit krityata, meaning what was to be achieved out of the human life, you have achieved it. Krit is done. Kriti means what was to be done. So what was to be done has been done. So that is final objective of the human life. Since he gives that example, you see you are at the summit of the hill. So I have borrowed that prototype. So we are all beginners. We are in the early parts of this practice. So I am still talking about step 4 to 5. So if you need a prototype, but I need to explain this because I like to say a few more things based on this prototype. So imagine in the early process, of course, the whole crowd is down the hill. They are all engaged in the worldly affairs. But we are slight beginners. We are walking a few steps up the hill. And once we have succeeded, we come to a plateau. Then we have to go through a lot of perseverance, a lot of practice. Then we walk another few more steps, climb. Then we get another plateau. So this is going on. And at the very end, just to make this whole prototype complete, the summit of a hill is like just imagine a hill where the summit has very small platform, very small platform. I'm just trying to give you full philosophy of Sankhya. So the mind is now treated as my instrument, my catches, and I am the soul. So my mind and my soul, I am climbing up the hill. Imagine at the very last step, because at the summit, I can just barely put my 2 feet, and there is not enough space for my catches. So as you will put your last step, along with that, you will throw away the catches as well, because you don't need them anymore. So that is Kapil's way of explaining. We want this instrument of mind to come to the final stage of self-realization, but after that we don't need it. So then we have achieved self-realization. Let's come back to climbing up a hill. So what I'm trying to say is they are in between plateau, and that is where you will be tested. It may take few days, few weeks, few months, and then the next plateau will come. So let's look at it. Patanjali meditation is climbing uphill. Occasionally, one is on a plateau for a long period, few days, few weeks, few months, but we should not give up. And that practice will alone will make me capable of reaching to the next plateau. So some of this, it may not necessarily be in this order, you know. Sometimes we are stuck with, we are in meditation, but then we have some distinct thoughts. Then we again use some, training like meditation loops or something, or just remind our mind with that sound again, I want to be without thought, and then buy some more moments. So we are at this level as a beginner, and then trying to get rid of thoughts, getting that time window wider and wider when I have blank mind. But as you know it, now you will appreciate it, we don't quite have blank minds. If they are not thoughts, there is a moving image. Something is happening. Maybe an orange color picture that becomes brighter, brighter, then it converts into some other color. Something is happening. I will say there is a moving image. Then sometimes there is an image which is not quite moving, but it just stays there. But I have learned to live with it. Sometimes you may see some kind of your eyes get wet, some kind of tears. Sometimes you have I'm not saying necessarily it is in this order, but you might be experiencing one or more of these kind of experiences. Sometimes you will feel you are not quite in your body, as if because body is with bonded, as if you are very much in a domain which is boundaryless. You are not bounded in this finite body domain. You may have that feeling. All kinds of possibilities are there. All that I am trying to say is characterize all these possibilities as a particular plateau. And remember that none of this is your final destination. Don't stick to them, but try to be slightly detached. Live with it, because that's where I am today as a meditation practitioner. But I should not treat this as my final destination. If you consider this as your final destination, your progress will not be taking place then. So nothing is final, but wherever you are, it is good, and don't get attached to it. Okay, that is the gift I have today, but I came a long distance from still a lower stations, and I am sure if I continue to persevere, I will go further uphill. So that is the dynamism of this journey. And wherever you are, one good thing is, as I have tried to say, twofold advantage is there. First is that particular plateau brings certain benefits to your daily life. That is happening. Secondly, you are preparing yourself for the next quantum jump of next plateau. So those twofold advantages will take place. Now continuing with this, all this is within step 4 and 5. I want to give you a hint of timelessness. Time is a concept when something moves, something is happening. If there is absolutely stillness, then as if time gets frozen. You have an idea when we wake up from sleep in the morning, there is one possibility is we had dreams. In a particular dream, things are happening. And when we wake up from that sleep, we have an idea that we slept for this much time, etc. But suppose there was absolutely no dream, it was deep sleep, nothing was happening, then you had no idea how long were you in deep sleep. You will have the same feeling whether it was 10 minutes deep sleep or 5 hours of deep sleep. You have no sense of time. So, timelessness is a very good barometer. So, if you get out of meditation and you have a feeling as if time was frozen, there was no concept of time, that is a very good, remarkable achievement. Because then nothing is happening in your mind skin. But even then, I will say that is not the end. That's why I put some more dots beyond that. Because timelessness also means there is a vritti, there is a picture, it is still image. It is not dynamism is not there. But something is there which is frozen on your mind screen. The point is, this is quite an endless journey, but timelessness is a very, very crucial barometer to watch out for your practice of meditation, which is a climb uphill, and of course, at the summit, which is we all would like to go to, but it requires a lot of practice. As beginner, I think we just want to stay on the course. So the guideline is be persistent wherever you are, and one day you will be at the next plateau. Whatever is the altitude you have achieved, you have a long list of benefits, which I always read out. Probably this slide I don't have to read again. Today we have discussed something food for the soul, which brings us enormous innermost energy that I can say is like resilience, which gives very high threshold, so that you are aware, you are not disturbed by anything. We are in this I Samaj hall, founded by Maharishi Dayanand. I like his statement. He writes in his book Satyat Prakash, what are the benefits of Upasana? He is fond of using the term Upasana for what we call Patanjali meditation, which I will probably describe later why you use this term. He says, what are the benefits of this? He says that even a difficulty in the nature of a huge mountain will not be able to move you. So we know it, all of us are experienced in our life. We try our best, still all kinds of untoward incidents take place in the world. Something unwanted, all kinds of accidents, many things happen in life, though we take our best care. And that is where we are tested. How are we going to react to those situations? So he is saying, if you have this innermost energy with Patanjali meditation, then you will not be disturbed even if there is an event of a mountainous magnitude. So that much of innermost energy you are able to hold within yours. That much about what we are aiming to. Let's devote next few minutes. I think we have 12 minutes for meditation. Okay. This is our body posture. A couple of minutes of deep breathing, each breathing cycle with 4 phases. Breathe out, retaining the air outside. Deep breathe in, then retaining it inside. During the retention mode, mental recitation of the sound O. Then we instruct our mind with that sound. After a brief pause, then we focus our mind between the two eyebrows, and then we follow the prototype that we walk deep into the sky. Or, if you want, any other prototype of your choice. When we are in our cave, disconnected from mind, if there is a disturbing thought wave, we remain conscious not to entertain it and remind our mind with that same sound. Let's devote a few moments of deep breath. Deep breathe out. Hold it out. Breathe in. Hold it within. Breathe out. Hold it out. Breathe in. Hold it within. One more last cycle. Breathe out. Hold it out. Breathe in. Hold it within. We wait for our breathing to normal. This is very significant in Patanjali meditation that I wait for breathing to become normal. When I say that, what I mean is I am basically handing over the process of breathing back to the background forces. Because in step number 2, I was doing the breathing with application of my mind. Now, at the end of step number 2, pranayam, I want to disconnect from my breathing. This is very important because deep in meditation, I don't want to be aware of my body, my breathing, anything. Let's instruct our mind with that sound 5 times together. Om. Om. Gradually open our eyes. That was our 11th session. We'll meet again next week. Have a good time.